The lost word, it's a concept in esoteric Freemasonry, which represents a state of consciousness that has been largely, quote unquote, lost to the majority of human beings. In order to speak the quote unquote lost word, a human being must work upon themselves in order to achieve a state of equilibrium or balance between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. In such a state of balanced consciousness, the being has come to know oneself, as well as the working operations of the macrocosm, meaning natural law. In doing so, that person has also come to understand the objective difference between right and wrong, or as these concepts are referred to in the tradition of Freemasonry, they have come to understand the difference between light, which is right, and darkness, which is wrong. The lost word is no. It is a dual word. The lost word is dual, meaning it's two things. It's not just one. It is the word no, N-O, and it is the word know, K-N-O-W. Those are the lost words. In the enlightened state of consciousness generated through the knowledge of natural law, a human being is finally able to speak the so-called lost word, which is no. No is the word of all power. The words that are attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, and many people will never have heard this quote. He says, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household." We're going to talk about who the enemy really is. "Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." These are words attributed by Jesus, but what you want to put in place of Jesus is the word truth. The way, the light, knowledge. What will this battle really be against, this spiritual war? Well, I say it will really actually be against inner demons that exist in the psyche of mankind. And these inner demons are egos that are hardened into what I've referred to as negative knowledge, emotional mind control, and the fear of true freedom. Negative knowledge is the concept that somebody already knows. They don't want to look at something because, hey, I already know what's really going on. It's the illusion of knowledge. The greatest enemy may not be ignorance, but rather the illusion of the actual knowledge. Many people are in that state, and the people who are in that state largely are the overly intellectual, the super left-brained, the left brain prison, folks. Emotional mind control is the second inner demon. Many people don't have the thick skin to listen to somebody like me, and that's okay. That's all right. Again, what Art talked about is that in the ancient traditions, they talked about reserve the meat for the strong men and furnish the milk for the babies. Emotional mind control comes in a couple of forms. Well, if this is the new age variant, is this right here. If it's unpleasant, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to see it, and I certainly won't want to tell others about it. I'll just ignore it and it'll go away on its own. Well, what happens when you do that with any kind of a sickness or a problem? Does it get better? It gets worse. Where does the fear of true freedom come from? You can look it up here at the top of the tree. There's the leaves. The leaves are one's refusal to own their own personal responsibility. Now you would think, oh, that's way down at the root. No. That's the symptom that's manifesting up at the top of the tree. That's actually the leaves on the tree, the leaves and the twigs. Then we get down to the big branches and the trunk of the tree. We're getting closer to the heart of the real psychological issues that are at work driving the negative aspect of the problem. Self-loathing due to lack of self-respect. Now, what am I really describing here? What have we actually been describing? What kind of people want to live in perpetual refusal to own personal responsibility because they have some nested traumatic issues that have led to self-loathing and lack of self-respect? What am I really describing there? We're talking about people who are psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually immature. They have not grown up. They have not accepted personal responsibility, which is a hallmark of true adulthood or maturity. And this is due to the trauma that they've undergone that's led to self-loathing, okay, and the lack of self-respect, which is why they don't want personal responsibility. They want to remain an eternal child. Now, let's find out what is at the root of this tree of evil. Because until we go into this space, into this causal factor of these other manifesting psychological conditions, we're not actually hitting the actual root of the problem. If a child doesn't like themselves, they hate themselves, they feel they're not good enough, they're not worthy, they have all these imagined feelings of inadequacy and self-loathing, and that's expressing their refusal to grow up and take personal responsibility for themselves in their adulthood. What kind of trauma specifically has that child more likely than not psychologically undergone? They've gone through a specific type of childhood trauma. And I would argue that most people on earth have gone through this type of trauma. And that type of trauma is called abandonment. The human species is suffering from very deeply seated parental abandonment issues that lie at the very core of the psychological condition that we call the human condition. Until we deal with that nested psychological trauma that has been created through abandonment issues, we're not hitting the roots of the tree of evil. Until we wrestle with those psychological abandonment issues, we're not getting to the heart of what's causing these other problems in the human psyche, like self-loathing, the lack of the development of self-respect, and the refusal to own the responsibility for one's own actions. And I'm going to connect this with human origins, and I'm going to make the case that it has always been like that. We have been children on this planet since we have been on this planet. And we have never actually psychically, psychologically, and emotionally and spiritually grown up, because as a species, we have undergone what I term cosmic abandonment. What will be required on the part of those performing this great work? And you know, it is like Sisyphus rolling that boulder up the hill. We just got to get it up to the top and give it that one last push so we don't have to keep doing it again. Who knows how many times we've already tried to do this, and it's ended in failure. We need the knowledge of the real enemy. We need to devote ourselves to service to truth, not even service to humanity. I'm not saying that's not a great virtue to have and to enact. I'm telling you, we need to go beyond that. This isn't about service to me, you, or any other individual. It's about service to truth and principles first and foremost. And we need courage and persistence. What humanity needs to do is make what I call the cosmic apology. And I'll get to what that means. See these words right here? I was wrong. That's the most powerful phrase that can ever be said by a human being. The second most powerful phrase I would acknowledge is I love you. But this is more powerful than even that, because this is about internal change, not just a dynamic or an interaction or a relationship with another. This is about an internal metamorphosis. When you say these words, this is the phrase of all power. No is the word of all power by which we reclaim our power. But this is the phrase of power. The word apology comes from Greek, apo, meaning away from, off of, or removed from, as we've just seen. And the Greek noun logos. Logos means word. So hence, an apology, it literally means to go away from the word, or to give back the word. You are taking it back. So if I make an apology, I said something, I didn't really mean it, or I want to retract it. An apology means, let me take back what I just said. Okay, I'm taking it back, I'm removing the word. That's an apology in the standard colloquial English understanding sense. Let's look at what I call the cosmic apology and where this term really comes from, what it really means. See, the Greek noun logos, which is written there in Greek script, which means word in Greek, it comes from the Greek verb lego, all right? Lego in Greek means to speak or to say. It's where we get the English word lexicon from. The Latin noun lex legis is related to the Greek verb lego, to say. Again, because who put the laws into manifestation? The Creator did. How did the Creator manifest the physical universe and all the laws? Spoke it into existence. Reality and truth are spoken into existence by the power of vibration, the vibratory power of voice. So the Creator created the universe by the phrase, fiat lux in Latin. It means let there be light. The Latin noun lex legis, meaning law, is actually derived from this Greek verb lego, meaning to speak or to say. God and not man is the logos, the author of law, the one who spoke the law into existence at the creation of the universe, because natural law is the boundary conditions of the manifested reality called the physical universe. These are the boundary conditions which govern it. Humanity's work is to learn to listen to God's word, not man's word, not man's law, natural law, spiritual law, moral law, God's law, karmic law. I don't care what you want to call it. Call it whatever you want. This is the truth. You want to talk about what all these phrases really mean? It all comes back to the word truth. And humanity needs to align its behavior to this law, God's law, natural law. The word doesn't belong to us, folks. The word belongs to God. That's why it says at the beginning of the biblical text, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. That's what the Logos is, natural law. God is law. This apology is accomplished when we open our minds and hearts to truth and we start saying the lost word, no to evil, to the presence of evil in our lives. This is a painting by Alex Gray that shows the worldview schism. Are we going to stay embedded in the left brain and in other forms of imbalance, and we're going to create the negative worldview? Or are we going to live in harmony with natural law? Natural law, living in harmony with it, can only lead to these conditions: freedom, peace, prosperity, the continuation of our species, our actual physical survival, and our evolutionary progress in consciousness.